Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me tonight is the old left-hander, the old 0.2 percenter in Immaculate Grid, Ross Grimsley, former Oriole ace pitcher, 20-game winner with the Montreal Expos, and Luke Jackson, who's just a terrific guy. But there's not
I never
always...
I never won 20.
No,
I never won one. So
never
it's
won.
You did a lot of other things.
He does do a lot of other
Yes,
things.
he does. Yes, he does.
Hey guys, we're in here and we're going to talk in just a second. Right now, I got a question to pose to those listening in our audience, and that is, what company has the expertise and technology to make your home substantially more energy efficient, comfortable, and even virus-free? Well, that would be AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. And now the college basketball season has tipped off. It's a great time of year to sign up for the best sports book around, and that is Superbook Sports. Most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use the promo code StanCharles23 or Glenn Clark 23 to score up to $250 with their first bet promos, their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 if you use the promo code StanCharles23 when you sign up. All one word with no spaces. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And we'll hear a little bit more about the Costa Sin a little bit later on the show. Suffice it to say, they've been with me for, again, I always do, like 28 years they've been sponsoring things that I do, combined with PressBox, my old talk radio days, and anything I've ever done. Luke, it was your idea to go at 7 o'clock tonight because you were well aware of the clock as to when these Major League Baseball awards are out. So I'll let you break it to our audience. In the last 35 minutes, it's been announced that who won the American League Rookie of the Year, Luke?
Orioles infielder Gunnar Henderson took it home with all 30 first place votes.
Mazel tov to
Big
Gunnar
surprise.
Henderson out there. Well, I'll tell you what, Luke and I've talked about this. If Josh Young doesn't get knocked out for 6 weeks, I think he had a leg up on the award early in the season. And I think by the way he hit in the postseason, I think all indications are he would have been able to hold on, even though Gunnar really came on late in the season, Luke. I mean, when I say late in the season, the second half predominantly.
Yeah, Josh Young certainly had a better start to the season. And Gunnar's season was a little reminiscent to Ryan Mountcastle a couple years ago when he got off to such a tough start the first couple of months. And he just really turned it on around Memorial Day. And I would say from about Memorial Day on for Gunnar, he was one of the best players in the American League, period. Rookie, doesn't matter. I mean, and really, I think what turned around his season, number one, I think he got a little more comfortable going back and forth between short and third. And he really played both of those positions at a high level. And he started to play a lot more short. Probably that defensive consistency helped, I would guess. And the other thing is he got a little more aggressive at the plate in hitters counts. And he was able to take advantage of those hitters counts and really do damage in those situations. I thought early in the year he was a little too passive at the plate. He got more aggressive and he started producing runs and hitting the ball out of the ballpark. So good on him for winning this award. Very well deserved. And I have no doubt that his star is just starting to rise. He's going to get better and better. He's got some areas of his game he could still improve on, and he will because he's so competitive. He works so hard. He'll get that done. He's a heck of a player. He's a heck of a kid.
Ross, I know you didn't see him every day like Luke and I did up in Baltimore, but you saw him enough. Looked like the second half of the year, especially the power numbers, started to be pretty good against left-handed pitching. I don't know what the batting average was for the season, but I know the second half of the year, he was a lot more comfortable against left-handers and seemed to really be able to crank on a few of them.
He didn't miss a lot of pitches the second half of the season. I mean, he got good swings on him, and that was. I mean, you got to tip your hat to the kid. You know, he's like most guys that a lot of guys come into the major leagues as rookies. They struggle. They're getting their sea legs going and trying to understand the major league game, how it's played, and how you go about doing things. And the stars and good guys, good players make adjustments, and he did. And you got to tip your hat to him. But seeing him a little bit at the beginning of the season, a lot more at the end, like you said, he was more aggressive. He was just getting the feel of what was going on. A little unsure, you know, of what to do, but you know, he's smart enough to be able to make adjustments, which he did. But he got some pitches, and like you said, all the left-handers, right-handers, it didn't matter. I mean, he was locked in, especially the second half, and didn't miss a lot. He got really good swings, and the pitches, mistakes in the middle of the plate, even the ones. I mean, I saw him, like most left-handed hitters, they like the ball down and in, and he jumped on those. You know, just wore some people out, but I mean, well deserved. I mean, this kid is very special. Where he's going to end up, short or third, that's a good question. But with Holiday on the way, I mean, the Orioles got some good players, and they're going to be really interesting this coming next few seasons.
Ross, when you were pitching, you know, before we knew Casey Stengel used to platoon. We knew that Earl Weaver had his index cards with what players did against lefties, righties, what they had done the last 30 days or so. But back in the days when you were just pitching, was it a breather for you when you got a left-handed hitter come to the plate? Because a left-handed pitcher is thrown against roughly 70% right-handed hitters.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, you know, some left-handed hitter, it didn't matter. You know, Brett, it didn't matter if you were, you know, whatever, any hand you were throwing with. He didn't care. But certain guys, you know, after you, you know, one of the things I'll always remember, we would go over the hitters. My whole time at Baltimore, but my first year, 74, we would go over the hitters before a series, and then go over the hitters the game you pitched. And I know Mike Cuellar being left-handed, Dave McNally being left-handed, and obviously Palmer being right-handed, we all attacked hitters different, no left or right, because of what we had and what had worked against hitters previously. And as the season progresses, you make changes, but you can't stay one way with a lot of guys because they are smart enough at the major league level. The good hitters will make adjustments, and it was different back then because the players tried to do, depending on an example. Gene Tennis was a guy, didn't hit very much, but he got a guy on third base with less than 2 outs. He was going to hit a fly ball somehow. Yeah. And that was just and moving guys over. They don't do that as much now. So you would pitch guys different in different situations and do a lot of different things. Well, we did analytical stuff, but we did it with a paper and a pencil, you know, and had the same information basically that they have. I mean, they have tons more, but it's overkill as far as I'm concerned, because we got stuff that we knew hitters, and we knew during the game what guys were going to do. It's kind of one-dimensional in a way now. You know, you got guys, they're not trying to move people over, they're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark, you know.
So I forget the exact hitters, but I heard over the years there were a few hitters that literally kept books on how their bats went against pitchers.
Oh,
let's forget that they wrote it down. In 3-4 years from now, Gunnar Henderson is going to know all the pitchers that he's facing, pretty much, you know, other than the new ones that come in. How big of an advantage does having more knowledge of the people you face change what you're able to do?
You know the intangibles. Yeah, I mean, you have an idea of what may happen or what this guy may do. Like I said, a lot of hitters, or a lot of pitchers now, they're throwing every pitch to swing it, to get you to swing and miss. So if you look for a pitch and behind an account with these better hitters, Gunnar being one of them, he's looking for a pitch in a spot, and if you don't get it, you don't swing. If it's 2-0 and you don't get a good pitch to hit, and there's guys on base, take it. You're going to get a good pitch to hit at some point in time in the at bat if you're patient. And that's what a lot of these guys learn to do, is be patient, wait for your pitch. If you get it, you get the 2 strikes. Now you got to protect the plate. And as a pitcher, you know that. As a hitter, you know that. But as you get older, you start to learn the tendencies of guys, what they do in certain situations or what they try to do. Some hitters, it's less now than before because everybody's basically trying to do the same thing. They swing for the fences. So it kind of helps the pitchers a little bit. You just need to stay away from that gift pitch down the middle of the plate if you can help it.
Well, the big headline tonight, again, if you're just tuning in, Gunnar Henderson, American League Rookie of the Year. Luke, we were together today at lunch. Corbin Carroll win it easily in the National League?
Yes.
As easily as Gunnar?
I know
Gunnar had
he
a
won.
little bit more.
I haven't taken a look at the exact voting yet for NL,
Okay.
but Corbin Carroll won.
Okay. Let's move on. Ross, the Orioles have a vacancy in the pitching coach role, as Chris Holt is going back to be strictly the organizational pitching coach now. There will be a new major league pitching coach. The name Andrew Bailey has just surfaced over the last day or two. You remember him, relief pitcher with, I think, Boston, Oakland, and the Yankees, I believe. He's been doing some coaching over the last few years. Apparently, he's a little perturbed at our friend Shane Turner's team because they didn't let him last year interview for a position on the East Coast. He's now a free agent,
right?
And his name is now attached to several teams, the Orioles being one of them. Do you know much about Bailey?
I don't know anything at all about him, and
Okay.
that's, Holt going to do what he's doing. I think that is a great move for the organization, because he had just a ton of stuff on his plate with big leagues and trying to do the minor league situation. And that's really, just doing the minor leagues is hard enough.
Look, I hope there's nothing to this, and it's just as simple as there was an agreement that he would be more beneficial to the team. This is a guy that I think 2 or 3 years ago, they fired a pitching coach, Doug Brocal, who by all intents and purposes was doing an okay job. He didn't have the talent that Chris Holt has had, but they fired him because they were afraid of losing Holt, to make him the major league pitching coach. And now 2 years or 3 years in, Luke, is it 3 years? Has he been the major league coach for 3 years?
Yes, 3 years. So he's starting in 21.
Now,
yeah.
after 3 years, somehow they just announced he's going back to that old role, and he's fine with it.
Yeah.
Just doesn't add up, really.
Yeah, it's very possible. Like I said, he might be more valuable there.
Yep. Well, that's my thinking.
Yeah, he's more valuable at the minor league level.
We see the pitchers that get to the major leagues seem to make progress. I don't know that we're seeing a lot of progress, Luke, with the pitchers that are in the minors really taking steps as rapidly as possible.
Well, and the other thing, to Ross's point, when you're I would think that when you're the major league pitching coach, that's really what your responsibilities are. I can't imagine that he had Chris Holt had a ton of time to do everything he wanted to do on the minor side.
Right.
And so I think that this is probably a better way to make use of Chris's talents. And probably
it's just we're all talking about it.
Yeah.
I doubt Chris Holt went in and said, "Hey guys, I'd rather focus on, if you pay me the same money, I'd rather focus on, developing young pitchers."
Right. Yeah. And to your point, I think it will be whoever they hire, I would imagine, will be someone who is aligned with Chris Holt's philosophies.
Right.
And this would be a good question for Ross. When you are hiring a pitching coach, when you're going into that sort of process, first of all, how many people do teams tend to interview in this kind of process, number one? And number two, what kind of alignment are you looking for with the people that you have currently in-house?
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm not sure who they have in house, but I believe the bullpen guy went somewhere else, if I'm not mistaken.
Darren Holmes also left. Yeah.
Holmes left, but Holt is there. I really think that whoever they bring in, you want to keep things on the same page from the big league level all the way down. And obviously that has happened, I think, especially I don't think the pitching people get as much credit as they deserve, because we've seen a lot of guys come in. Now, at the very beginning, I'm going, oh God, this is analytical stuff's going to go be crazy and this, that, and the other. And you're worried about, but they've done a lot of good things. And being in charge of the minor league as a coordinator, you're in charge of, well, it's less teams now, but now you got the Dominican.
Right.
You want to go. You go to every team, even in your developmental in Dominican, wherever, and you try to get everybody on the same page. You don't want any surprises when a guy goes from A ball to double A, or from low A to high A, or Dominican to wherever. You want everybody to roll the same. So Holt has done that in the past, had success. That I'm just speculating. I think that's what it is, because they've had success with guys they've brought in, players, pitchers, and done a pretty good job. So he might be more important and more helpful doing what
the organizational
than being a big league pitching coach.
Yeah.
Big league pitching coach, a lot of guys that is, you've seen over the years, and now, you got big league guys there that most of them know how to pitch. Now there's more now at the big league level that are learning how to pitch, which you didn't have in the past. But still,
Ross, do you read anything into the fact that, okay, they wanted to make a change in his position, and suddenly they go, well, we really don't need Darren Holmes? Is there anything to read into that? I thought they liked him as well.
I thought, yeah. I really don't. I think he obviously wanted to go somewhere else for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but they had success, and I don't see them, making a move to do what. They're moving in the right direction now. Let's not screw this puppy up.
Yeah.
And that's what
it was odd. It's very similar to like about 5-6 years ago or 7 years ago, when they didn't want to make Dave Wallace was the pitching coach, and Wallace wanted to go back to like being an organizational development pitching coach with Atlanta, and then they didn't give the job to what's his name,
Dom Cheedy.
Who all along we've been led to believe club really loves the tandem, and all of a sudden part of the tandem in there, and they don't like the other half of the tandem.
Let me give you a little example. I'll try to do it quick with Leo Mazzoni when he came there. Now he didn't. That was a no-win situation for him because I was with Atlanta when he was there. And what he did he started out in the minor league level, developed this system, and he took it to the big leagues with him. Now, granted, he had Smoltz, Glavine, Avery,
Greg Maddox.
Kent
Merker.
So just don't screw it up. But those guys were in the minor leagues when he was there,
right?
So he took this. When he came to Baltimore, I'm going, it ain't going to work, because first of all, they're not going to buy this. Now, if he started at the minor league level, and what he did, I used it in Seattle. I used it with the Giants. We cut down walks, we cut down injuries, and there was something to it, but the people didn't buy it. A lot of people didn't buy it in Baltimore, and he was doomed from the start.
All I remember about his regime in Baltimore was Bruce Chen, who had come up in the Atlanta organization, and somehow, I forget who his pitching coach was in Baltimore, he had a pretty good year, won like about 10 or 11 games.
Right.
And then I go, and then all of a sudden, I at the time, I remember I was big on extending him I said, they got this guy. He's been a flop everywhere else. He looks like he's finally putting it together. They bring in Mazzoni, who I know didn't like him in Atlanta.
No,
And the guy got jumpy and he was awful the rest of his career. Never attained anything.
I tell you, Leo had something, and it worked. And it was an old school type thing in the program, and the people just didn't. It's guys gonna get hurt, and I'm going, no. If you just think back when we were pitching and what we did.
Who's the guy I'm thinking of beyond Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavin? There was another left-hander that was really
Avery.
Steve Avery. That's what I was thinking.
Avery was there.
Yeah.
They had
then they had Kent Merker.
Merker was there. They had the guy that ran and jumped over the foul line when he right-hander. He pitched for when I was there. I had him.
Okay.
I can't think of his name, but he had a couple pretty good seasons. But yeah, that was just something that maybe they think Holt could be better moving guys quicker. I really believe that. I really think he's done something really good.
All right.
And getting them to the big leagues, when he gets there, then they're kind of on their own.
Hey, let me talk a little bit about the Costas. When we get back, Luke's pointed out that general manager Mike Elias at the GM meeting last week said a couple things about what he's looking for, and we'll talk about that when we continue. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the Costas Inn. Mouth-watering. As I watch Ross pour the water down his throat, I said mouth-watering.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to talk about.
The food at the Costas Inn is mouth-wateringly good. Whether it's steamed crabs, crab cake, one of their many, many specials, their salads, their soups. They've got everything for you. They got incredible pork chops, great ribs, steaks, whatever you like. They're known as a seafood house because they do such a great job with the crabs. But Monday through Friday, they've got several different specials every night of the week, so you can't lose at the Costas Inn. They're located at 4100 North Point Boulevard. That's right, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've only been there for going on 53 years. They do a great job out there, the Costas Inn. Check their menu out. I'm watching Luke laughing at me doing a live commercial, and I can't help but laugh. That's all right, Luke. That's all right. Sometime when you have a sponsor,
I know,
28 years.
I was just thinking, this is really great when I show up at the right place too.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I want to make sure everybody knows they're located
where it is.
4100 North Point Boulevard, not to be confused with another Greek restaurant called Pappas. But that's an inside joke between the three of us, and it really is very funny, but I won't bore you with it right now. Check out the website, costasin.com. If you're a little fishy about going inside restaurants, and some people are, and I know COVID is rearing its ugly head again a little bit, you can order your food online, costasin.com, pay for it online, and you don't even have to get out of your car. They'll bring it to your car, and everything is bagged immaculately. I've gone on about 90 seconds. That's all they pay for. The Costas Inn, you'll love them. Hey, guys, Luke, I'll start with you. You brought it to my attention that Mike Elias said something pretty interesting about what he's looking for to improve on with this team. Why don't you restate it, and we'll get Ross's opinion of it.
Yeah, so he was at the GM meetings with the rest of baseball's executives. I believe it was out in Arizona last week, and one of the national guys, Mark Feinstein, caught up with Mike because I don't think any of the local guys or gals were out there to talk to him. And Mike said that, which is no surprise to anybody, that he is looking for a starting pitcher for the top half of his rotation. So third starter to go with Bradish and Rodriguez. And the other thing that he's looking
so basically he'd like to find a 1 or a 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he's looking for, again, no surprise, is a reliever with closing experience. Because as we know, Felix Bautista is out all of next year. They do have some candidates to do that, but nobody who has done it over the course of a full season. And so I would, so it's no surprise that is on his shopping list as well. And it remains to be seen whether he attacks those things via trade, or free agency, or maybe one via free agency and another via trade. We'll see. It's a very, very competitive market for free agent starting pitchers. And there are a lot of teams out there with money to spend who want not one, but two starting pitchers. And so that is a very competitive market right now. So maybe with the ammo they have via trade and the number of guys that they don't really have room for, maybe that's the avenue they go. We'll see. But that's no surprise to me that Mike listed those two things as his top priorities.
Ross, let's start out with the starting pitching. You got Bradish health-wise, if he's okay, nothing, and I bring that up just if he's okay. He's slots in as your high number 2 or a number 1. You got Grayson, who I think all things considered has a chance one day, and I'm not talking 5 years from now. I think in 2 years he could be a number 1. But all things considered, I think he's a high-level number 3 who can peak into being a middle number 2 guy next year. Then you got Means, who you don't know exactly what you got going health-wise, okay? Given those 3 guys and what you saw and know of the other group like Povich and Zimmerman and others, are you looking at first not stepping too far out of the Kyle Gibson market, because you won 101 games with Kyle Gibson winning 15. Maybe you don't get too cocky to begin with and let him leave quickly, and now you're scurrying for 2 pitchers.
Yeah, the top tier, the top 3 tiers, I don't think they want to spend that kind of money. Gray, who else? Who's the other? Some at the top. Ohtani. They're not going to go after him. But
he can't pitch. He can't pitch anyway next year.
No, he can't pitch
but
anyway.
Nola, they're not going after Nola.
Snell, they're not going.
I doubt they're gonna make a trade for Corbin Burns and then have to pay him. They're not going after
the left-hander that was in Detroit, Rodriguez, who was with the Orioles at one time. He's going to demand a lot of money too. So I just don't see them doing that. Now, as far as what about Jordan Hicks? What Chapman? What about him? He's
So you mentioned Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
As a reliever with closing experience. Stan mentioned him to me, I want to say 7 to 10 days ago,
right,
as a potential option for the Orioles. He was traded over to Toronto, and that was actually the first time I had gotten an extended look at Jordan Hicks. He throws really hard. That part is true. And that would seem to fit the sort of ammunition that Brandon Hyde likes to have at the back end of his bullpen.
Well,
I'm going to give you guys
what they've done in the past with bringing guys in, Cano, Batista. These guys, they pull some magic and get some guys to do some things. And
I'm going to give you a guy, if you got your computers in front of you that you can look while we're talking.
Yep.
This relief pitcher that Tampa picked up last year from the Reds, or maybe it was the Pirates, Robert Stevenson. He's 31 years old. I hadn't heard of him other than like 2 years ago. And then this year, look at his numbers. The last 3 years, strikeouts to innings pitched. ESPN has him slotted to get 4 years at $36 million. I don't think the guy's made more than 1.7 in any one season. He really looks really interesting to me.
Yeah.
What's his name, Steve?
Robert Stevenson. So
Stevenson is Stephenson. Stevenson.
21 through 23. He pitched 156 and a third innings.
That's roughly 50 a season.
184 strikeouts.
Yep.
And 48 walks. 23 home runs allowed. The results have been a little up and down, partially because he pitched some in Colorado, so that inflated his numbers some. But he's bounced around a lot. He started his career with Cincinnati, then to
But
Colorado, then to
look at his
Pittsburgh,
numbers. The last 2 seasons are pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, outside of the Colorado stint in 22, which really elevated his numbers. So last year with Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, 52 innings, 77 strikeouts, 16 walks.
That's
And
pretty good numbers, Ross, isn't it?
He's
52 innings, 77 Ks.
yeah, that's the going thing now.
and this shouldn't be a surprise, but once he moved over to Tampa Bay after being with Pittsburgh, his performance really ticked up.
Yeah.
In
They have
30,
the secret sauce there.
in 38 innings with the Rays last year,
55 strikeouts.
He struck out 60, and
60.
he walked 8.
Yeah.
So he really figured something out with Tampa Bay, and if you could figure out, what that was, and if you think you can continue that, that's
Ross, let me ask you about a pitcher like him. When you see him do so well, are you inclined to want to acquire him when he becomes a free agent, or say, boy, he did really well at Tampa. We get him. We don't know that we're going to get those kind of numbers out of a guy like that.
It's with all the background work you do, and they do it on guys, and talking to him. Now I think he's a free agent, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's somebody you talk to, and like I've obviously O's have done this in the past, and see if he's going to be able to work with what the Orioles believe. And if that's the case, hey, you might have a gem here,
Yep.
The other guy who I think about getting is Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guarantees you're going to be in the World Series.
You ain't kidding.
In the meantime, they did sign a pickup the other day, Luke. They signed Tucker Davidson, who used to be a premier prospect with the Atlanta organization. The Orioles now have him as a 1-year contract.
So Ross mentioned Will Smith.
Yeah.
And Mike Elias did mention that he wants somebody with closing experience. Well, Will Smith has saved 113 games in 11 years. He is 34 years old. And this past year with Texas, 57 innings, 4.40 ERA. He struck out 55 and walked 17. And he gave up 5 home runs. And then and as a veteran left-hander with closing experience, I would imagine that he's going to have a lot of teams calling his agent. I would think, particularly given his experience on teams that have had long postseason runs. So, and honestly, on Davidson, I don't know a lot about him. Other than
pitched a little better with Kansas City as a relief pitcher.
Yeah, a little bit better. I mean, his ERA throughout his career is pretty elevated. It's a 5.98 career ERA.
They must see something that they like about him, though.
They must. They must. I mean, because if you look at his, honestly, if you look at his baseball reference page, they've got to be looking under the hood and seeing something.
Is there a ground ball rate that's really good?
Maybe. Hold on. I'm not looking at that.
Is anybody that's got a good ground ball rate?
He doesn't have a a great ground ball rate either. At least 43% ground ball rate. Not it's but it was 38% with KC last year. So yeah, they're obviously looking at under the hood at something with Tucker Davidson.
Those are the guys that they're going to look at, I really believe, because they're in the price range that they're probably willing to spend. And the thing is the trade route might be a thing that they really
because I mean, to your point, Ross, I mean, they have the pieces in their minor league system to be in on pretty much anyone in the trade market.
Yeah.
It's a matter of what they want to give up, what they're willing to part with. But because I mean, they're at a point with a couple of their guys at Norfolk where they're kind of at play them or trade them.
Yeah.
They got to that point with Jordan Westberg last year and they called him up. But guys like Connor Norby, Joey Ortiz, at some point you've got to play them in the major leagues or you got to trade them because you can't just stash them in AAA forever.
Hey, we'll leave it at that tonight. You and I the 3 of us will be back next Monday. Okay. We'll probably do it more like 4 or 5 o'clock next Monday. I appreciate you guys being able to juggle this today for me. All right. We thank our sponsors, AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. Our friends at Superbook Sports, take advantage of their special first bet bonus. When you sign up, use promo code StanCharles23 or GlennClark23, all one word with no spaces. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And that first bet bonus, by the way, is $250. On your first bet, they will match up to $250, win or lose. And of course, the cost to sin. Next week, guys, keep doing your homework. We'll dig into some free agents next week that might make sense for the O's. Okay. Talk to you soon, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Luke is manager of the year tomorrow night.
That is tomorrow night. Yep.
Yeah, and that should be. I feel pretty confident about Brandon Hyde.
It could be Ross's boy Bruce Bochy, though.
Yeah, Bochy.
Could be.
Yep.
Could be.
Be interesting.
Right. We'll talk soon. Bye, guys.